The opinions expressed in the following programs are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of Rogers Cable or Rogers TV.
Hi, and welcome to Politically Speaking. I'm David Shearman. My guests today are Lori Wilder, the Director of Education for the Bluewater District School Board, and Jane Thomson, who is the Chair of the Bluewater District School Board. And you're both at home.
We are safe and sound at home.
Well, that begs the question. I guess it's a snow day?
It is, David. It's another inclement weather day where majority of our buses did not run. And we've had some school closures due to road closures that are occurring in the district and the difficulty of getting staff there, particularly. I mean, they know we can't have them driving on closed roads. So we do realize the impact this is having on students and families, and just want to emphasize we still are committed to student learning during these periods of time, but we do want to prioritize the safety of our students and staff.
Well, I remember when I was back in the Stone Age when I was in school, these were kind of days when if the buses didn't run, what we ended up doing is we watched films.
So we do our best to not make it so, but it is dependent. First of all, in terms of elementary schools, we know for parents, because many of these parents on these days still need to go to work themselves. So we do our very best to keep our elementary schools open for students that can safely get there, and parents need for them to get there. They're open for them to attend. And then depending on how many show up, the schools make decisions on what they can offer in terms of learning. We try not to offer things that are brand new to the curriculum because that's not equitable for the students that can't get there. Secondary, what we've decided to do, and just for more engagement, we found out that students generally in secondary weren't coming anyway. So now we've moved to online learning on those days. And teachers are to be available during that time for students to come in and meet with teachers, not again to necessarily deliver brand new curriculum, but maybe to provide support or enrichment activities, those kinds of things that can support students.
Well, I remember the days when I would walk to school because I lived generally close enough to walk. But that was one of the benefits, is that you got that one-on-one attention from your teacher, and it was generally a pretty decent. You didn't feel like you'd lost the day. It had been a worthwhile day to at least make the effort to show up. But I certainly recognize in rural communities that can be very difficult, if not dangerous.
Yes, and so that's. Oh, Jane, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, as a parent, when our girls were going through this kind of experience, I remember them always having work that it was an opportunity for them to catch up with, finish assignments, study for tests that were coming up, work on science fair projects. There always seemed to be enough that it was an opportunity to do some of that work that they may have felt they didn't have time for or would have been stressed about. I assume that's the same for our students now, but it is difficult as we go through so many days. You worry about what they're missing. But
I've heard that expressed on social media that parents are afraid or fearful of what their children are missing, and it sounds like you really want to assure them that the kids will be okay.
They will definitely be okay. And we know currently with our school year calendar, it is approved by the ministry. It went, trustees also approved it. So in the province, there is no opportunity to extend our school year. And I would suggest that many students wouldn't want that, nor would many parents. Students work, they get summer jobs. So we don't have an opportunity to do so. But really, teachers know there are big concepts in the curriculum. And as long as they cover those big concepts, that's what they're asked to do from a curriculum delivery point of view. So we know that students will still be okay in the long term.
How many days are we up to now in terms of no buses?
I know it varies a little bit from our zone to zone, but I believe we're up at day 19.
Mm-hmm. That sounds
Which
about
is,
right. I was going to say 20, but you're probably close because you know these things.
well, I too could be off a little bit, but it is unprecedented. I've been in this area for a long time, specifically with this board, and this is the most number of inclement weather days that I have seen over all the years that I've been here.
Now I have to give a shout out to the crossing guards. That's they are there, and that applies mostly to the towns and municipal towns and cities of the area. But even no matter where they are across Grey Bruce, they still show up. And I gotta say, God bless them. They show up. In fact, the ones at my corner actually bring shovels with them. The reason they do is that the corners can be very blind with all the snow that we've got so far. And I guess it's also a way to keep warm, but they shovel the snow back from the sidewalk and from the corner. And that's over the top. That's really going the second mile.
We have many people who are so committed to the work they do to support our student learning. And you've mentioned, like in Crossing Guards, that's another prime example of folks who come forward and support in some way. And thank you for mentioning that.
Now, Jane, does board business continue? I mean, you in the winter, you in previous years, let's say pre-COVID, you might have canceled a board meeting or rescheduled a board meeting. Do you go online for board meetings instead?
We don't go online. That's part of the ministry regulation, but we did cancel a meeting, the last meeting in the month of January due to inclement weather. So we can take if something needs to be dealt with quickly. I mean, we do take a look at that, but we knew we could put it off to our next board meeting. But certainly we're concerned for the safety of everyone traveling to that also.
And having driven to Chesley in the middle of a snowstorm, I get it. I get it. It's kind of wild. But actually, that's interesting. Our legislature can meet virtually, but school boards can't. Municipal councils can meet virtually, but school boards can't.
The expectation is that the chair and the director be in attendance for a meeting.
Interesting. Well, it's an interesting world we live in. Not quite changed.
Mm-hmm.
Well, anyway, let's move on to some other stuff. And my golly, the list that Jamie sends me is quite phenomenal. You think, oh, it's a school board, kids are learning, everything's okay. No, it's not. It's different. And although we don't want to quite go there, we have to acknowledge that we are in the middle of an election campaign as we're talking, and I'm sure that has some bearing on the work of the Board of Education. But there have been some announcements, not necessarily during the campaign itself. We've got an announcement about the Port Elgin school build. What's that about?
It's a very exciting announcement, and it did happen just before the call for the election. So it was probably the day before or so that we found out. It's a new growth school. So instead of when I first started to be a trustee, we would be looking at consolidating schools, perhaps replacing an older school. But this is a brand new school for the Port Elgin area to deal with new population demands, similar to what we're doing in Dundalk. So it is really a wonderful news.
Are you sure we haven't gone back to the future? I mean, when you think about it, this is the kind of new school growth that was going on in the 60s and 70s. It's quite remarkable.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the Beavercrest Community School build, which is continuing, I presume. Have we got any updates on that?
We actually just had an update at our last meeting, and it is progressing very well. hope is the plan is that our students will be moving into that school when they return from March break.
Really?
So very exciting.
That's good. Because normally those things happen at the beginning of a school year, and I know we've talked about the Beavercrest School in the past. So that's a major step forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there was still in the pictures that we were looking at, of course, ceiling tiles needed to go in. There's finishing details, but they feel they're well on track to have that all be in place. So over the March break, the fittings, like the move will happen and then ready for the students when they come back. So
Wow, that's remarkable. Now, I guess we don't have new schools opening very often. I think the last one was the Georgian Bay School in Meaford.
yes,
So, are you planning a big celebration once the snow goes away?
there certainly will be a celebration to uh, I mean, it's exciting news. It'll be wonderful to have a tour of a beautiful new facility. It has taken some time to get here. Um, the child care center will move in a little bit later, so they'll focus on the areas for the students first, and then the child care will move in a month or so later. But yes, there will be celebration, and in fact, there was a celebration back. Not quite sure the date, but to say goodbye to the old Beavercrest School. So a nice opportunity for people to go and tour. I didn't hear that the weather impacted those tours. I hope it didn't, but a nice opportunity for the closure of that piece of it.
You know, it's amazing when you talk about closure of a school and moving to another one. I remember when the Alexandra School was closed and the new Alexandra was built. Um, those memories of formative years become so important. And I know even in Owen Sound, you can identify where someone lived by saying, "Yeah, I went to Dufferin. I went to Alexandra. I went to Victoria, or I went to Ryerson, or even better, OSCVI,
Yes.
the original
Oh,
OSCVI."
yes.
But do you find that's true in places like Markdale as well? That people really they stay connected to those elementary schools?
I would say absolutely. I mean, the memories, I'm even thinking, as you're saying that, David, I'm even thinking back to my elementary school and how I was able to walk, and I can picture it. Like, it's so funny how it just becomes ingrained in your minds. And you remember, it brings back memories of friendships that you had and teachers that you had, the principal. So I don't think those memories ever leave. And those are stories that are shared in the communities uh, they will be shared in the communities for a long time coming.
And I think social media has a role to play here. I happened to go to public school in Quebec, and the school was part of the English Protestant school system before Quebec abolished denominational boards. And what was really interesting is that there is actually a Facebook group for my old elementary school,
Yeah.
which closed, I think, about 10 years ago. But the building is still there, and it's still being maintained in sort of a stasis that it's being, you can look through the windows and it's not being cleaned, but it could be opened up and redone and reused very quickly. But all of I actually met online people I have not seen. Now here I'm dating myself in close to 60 years.
Oh, wow.
Oh, I remember you. Or your sister was in my class. And do you remember the teacher? I hate to.
Incredible.
Oh, it's remarkable. We had a principal who is now deceased, so I can say it. We called him Rubber Pants because his initials were RP.
Oh,
I wasn't sure where you were headed with that.
More, but that's all I had to say on that in that Facebook group was, "Do you remember RP?" Oh yeah, and I'm quite sure that is true of Beavercrest and actually any of the schools here in Grey Bruce. There's a deep tie. that
We saw the passion from the community when we were doing the accommodation reviews, and the people that, it happens all around in every school board in the province. Schools matter very much to our communities, and we heard it, we saw it. So I hope those memories will continue in the new building, and it'll continue as in the heart of Markdale. So it's still in the same location to serve families there. So.
well, if someone went to Beavercrest and still has their report cards, maybe Grey County Archives and Grey Roots would be interested.
Mhm.
Mine are safely put away, so no one's going to see it. But in all seriousness, those kinds of memories are important. The other thing is that we remember our teachers,
Mm-hmm.
and they are, because they were so often so formative in our lives. We remember them often with great pleasure, sometimes with great, yeah, they were, but there's always one or two special teachers in a student's career that you do remember and honor. So that's something else that's important. So
And just with our school builds, I mean, it's a testament to the relationships that we have with our municipal partners, and we're certainly grateful to the provincial government for funding schools. That comes from them. The work that goes in at the board level to put the business cases forward to show where our needs are. So it's exciting. They take time. I mean, it's been quite some time when we announced the new school in Markdale to when we're going to be moving in. It all takes time, but we're very grateful for all those relationships and the work that goes on behind the scenes.
oh, absolutely. And I know that school has been a long time coming, and there was some community impatience about the slow progress. Um, I remember Ashley Chapman being very blunt
Mhm.
a long time ago. But this is actually a really helpful development. Are there any other schools? You mentioned Dundalk, but are there any other schools that are worth lifting up? I know that the Catholic Board has a new school in Kincardine, and there are plans on the board for a new site for St. Mary's. But are there any in the public school system that are kind of in the pipeline that you can talk about?
Actually, the building Kincardine is ours.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a new K to 12 for us. So we're at the point, we're just attempting to secure some land there. So we are fingers crossed that announcement will be coming shortly for the public on that. And honestly, I must say, once land is secured and the build starts, it doesn't take long for these schools to go up. When I appreciate Jane referencing those that she did, and I just look at the members of our plant department and how they work to ensure we have the contractors and all the people that are required to do these jobs. Not only on top of that, this past summer, I know we talked about it, David, with you on a previous show, we put more money into capital kind of fixes during the summer into our buildings to make sure they are safe and secure and well lit, and they have good HVAC systems. So the plant department does that on top of all of these builds. So anyway, those are the ones that we have coming down the pipe, so to speak, right now.
Well, I know that Owen Sound has got something like 4,000 housing sites approved, from apartments to condos to houses. So I suspect in the next 5 years, this is going to be an ongoing thing. I mean, obviously, we can't talk about Owen Sound projects because we just don't know. Ground hasn't even been broken, but it does look very seriously as if we will start to see, as I've said to Ian Boddy, bulldozers doing their work. I'd be very surprised if we don't see some of that stuff happening. But again, well, Lori, actually, that will be for your successor.
Yes, it will, David. Yes, it will. I'll be watching from a different lens when that all takes place.
Yes, so you now normally the director of education works on a 5-year contract, renewable, I presume, if everyone agrees. But you've decided, no, I'm going to move on to something else. I hate the R word. I just hate the R word.
Oh, I'm with you, David. I'm with you. I'm calling it like a transition, or in terms of the R word, rejuvenation or reimagination, those kinds of words. Because I did read something that retire means putting your tools down, and I thought, no, I'm not ready to do that. I really enjoy being busy and being surrounded by people as I have in my current role. It's just been a fantastic. I've enjoyed every aspect of the career I've had. First, when I started teaching in Grey County to now with Bluewater District School Board, I feel so fortunate. And it's just, we have some wonderful students and families, staff. I've just enjoyed it all. So I know, I like that idea better.
Has all of your career been with the Bluewater Board?
Yes, I mean, when I started, of course, we weren't amalgamated. So I was in Grey County teaching in Meaford. And then in 1998, they amalgamated Grey and Bruce counties. So I've been here since 1986 as a teacher. And then so it will be a total of 39 years when I complete my career. And it's a good time, I think. The trustees, one of their major roles is hiring a new director. And so the timing is good because with my transition or leaving the role, because then they can really, before their term is up, they'll have the person hired and they will have an opportunity to work with that person before a new board of trustees comes in. So it's nice timing for that.
Yes, I was going to say that this is you're just past the midterm for trustees, Jane. So
Correct.
now you've got this big piece of work to do, and then then you can figure out if you're going to run for re-election.
Yeah, actually, trustees have done a couple of big pieces of work because we just did our strategic plan. We looked at that and made some changes to it, and now with hiring for Lori. So yes, two very important pieces of the role of trustees that we've been looking at in the last little while.
And just to remember that the board has exactly one employee, and that's the director of education. So it's your job, and I'm glad it's your job.
Well, and it's a big job because the board of trustees will come and go, but we have a big job to choose someone that's really good for our organization. We're very sad to see Lori go, certainly respect her decision, but we have big shoes to fill. So but it's a big responsibility to find the right person for this organization.
Now, do you use an external consultant or do you do it internally?
No, we're using an external company to help us with that search process. And so they've been doing interviews with key stakeholders. So it's, they can amalgamate all of that information for us so that it's not just the voices of the trustees that they're hearing. And the ad for the position will be going out very soon. And we'll look for some excellent candidates to be putting their names forward.
Now, are there specific qualifications to being the director of education?
They've yes, they've shifted. You have to be qualified as a superintendent, but it has shifted, David, because before the director had to have an academic background, be a teacher. But that's changed now. So those folks don't have to, applying for the position, don't have to have a teaching background. So they could have a business background, for example. So there are certain things outlined in the Education Act in terms of qualifications, but they do not have to have an education type teaching background anymore.
Interesting. That's an interesting shift. But there's no certification like to be a principal or a superintendent. You have to have taken certain courses and such, but that's not required for the director of education.
So as a director, you would still, because they still have a program called Supervisory Officials Qualification Program. So that person would have to have that. And to take that, the acronym is SOQP, you have to have a master's degree, things like that to even do that ahead of time. So they would have to come with that. But those folks who might be in the business field, for example, they too can take that qualification and apply for the position.
Interesting. Interesting. It's the world is changing, and it's one. I mean, I guess the three of us grew up in the system where, the pinnacle of a teacher's career might well be as a principal or a
Mhm.
superintendent or a director. And
Mhm.
well, Laura, you realize that one of the, I won't say perks of being the director is they might name a school after you.
Oh, well, I'm not holding my breath, but thank you for the thought, David. Thank
Well,
you.
I've seen it happen in the Peel Board.
Yes,
Directors of,
yes,
people who I have remember as the directors of education have had schools named after them. Now they've
yes.
been men, but
Oh, yes.
that was the old days.
That was the old days.
That was the old days, unfortunately. But it would be wonderful to see some of the to see those kinds of honors. Now, it'll be interesting to see what the result will be. Jane, when do you expect that the decision will be made? Do you have a timeline on that yet?
We do. I'm just off the top of my head. It'll be into April or later in April, I think. Um, and then there'll be some opportunity for overlap with Lori because her last day will be at the end of August. So that gives us an opportunity to have the transition there.
Sure, sure. And I mean, if the person isn't local, you'll have to introduce them to Gray Bruce.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I tell you, that's an important part. I just feel like um, whoever comes in needs to have a good understanding of our community, our Grey and Bruce counties, because we are very wonderfully special up here, and a commitment to this area, I think, is key.
And what about the connection within the indigenous communities? Is that that's been historically a part of your work, Laurie, and the board's
It
work as
sure
well?
has. And I can let Jane comment. I would just say that connection to me is critical. I don't know, Jane, if you wanted to add anything to that.
Well, certainly it's one of the community partners that we identified as being part of this process. But it is something that Lori's legacy is the relationships that she's built and the work that's been done. When we were kind of smiling when we were drafting up who we want to hire, it's pretty lofty goals that we're looking for people, and of course they should be, but in terms of what we want that person to bring to our board.
Mm-hmm. Well, it'll be absolutely fascinating to see what the result is. So yeah, that'll probably be a conversation for our next show, which usually about I think we've got maybe one, maybe two more on the schedule. That is, if we don't get an election in the interim.
Yes.
That tosses everything into the wind. But don't worry, we'll fit you in. We'll fit you in. Anyway, let's go on to the strategic plan. You mentioned that, Jane, as an important piece of work that the board has done, and I'd hate to say what does there are obviously pillars to the strategic plan. What are those pillars?
Well, I guess the pillars are the main areas that we're focusing on. It certainly aligns with ministry goals or expectations for us also. Our strategic plan always did align very closely with targets from the ministry, our areas of focus. So we just looked at them again. You may remember we went to the community and asked for some feedback back in June with respect to our strategic plan. We had excellent response. So we took that information and the trustees met for an opportunity to review all of that and look it's becomes very wordsmithing. It's trickier than you think it might be, because what one word means to me might be less clear to another person. And when we're trying to come up with a statement that you want everyone to have the same kind of feeling about, it's quite a process to go through. And so we tried to streamline it a little bit. It's shorter. We combined 4 pillars into 3, not getting rid of anything, but just felt it, some of it fit under other areas. So it was released, approved, and it's now our strategic plan moving forward for the next 3 to 5 years.
Well, it will be interesting. I guess, Lori, that's in a sense, in your role, that's the last big piece of work.
Yes, that was, I know the trustees worked hard on that, and that is critical for an organization. And the timing of this being approved and being rolled out currently is nice too for the current board and the new director coming in, because it will overlap beautifully. Generally, a multi-year strategic plan lasts 3 to 5 years. And so this will then take them beyond when a new board comes in, the new director's here. And so the timing is perfect. We're also working on some promotional materials currently to align with the new multi-year strategic plan. So you should see those being released in the near future.
Well, that's great. Well, we got to take a break. So I'm going to tell my producer it's time. So it's time. And we'll be back in about 90 seconds. I'm David Shearman. We'll be right back.
This program is brought to you by Rogers Xfinity, connecting you to more of what you love. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
For me, the end was just the beginning. I felt I must come. If I did not come at once, it would be too late. And these places that are watered with the best blood of Canada might only be names and memories. I see it in the soldiers, the grief I know so intimately. And I will not abandon these men to it. The isolation wears on me. Slowly, the silence takes over, as if my heart has given out of air. I cannot talk. I can only paint.
For more than 2 years, Mary Ryder Hamilton painted the battlefields of the First World War, creating an unforgettable visual record of service and sacrifices at immense personal cost.
Hi, I'm David Shearman, host of Politically Speaking on Rogers TV. Join me this fall for more interviews with our local, provincial, and federal politicians. Politically Speaking on Rogers TV. Hi, and welcome back to Politically Speaking. I'm David Shearman. My guests today are Lori Wilder, Director of Education for the Bluewater District School Board, and Jane Thomson, who is the chair of the board. Now, I just introduce people, but maybe I should have had Jane come first, but what the heck. Lori, this won't quite be your last show, but I'll give you the honor today. All right. As I look at some of the interesting other things that the board does, one of the things across all municipal structures, and I think the school board is the same, is it's budget time. How is the budget coming?
It's coming along fine. I mean, we're following our normal process, so people may have noticed, and if not, I hope they'll go look. We've just gone for public consultation so that people can let us know what the priorities that they have for our budget will be. And then we'll be looking at, with the provincial election being called now, we're hoping that the information will come to our our staff in a timely manner for them to work on the rest of the budgeting. But we're in a good position.
Do you feel that there's going to be any increase in the levy, or do you think it'll be status quo? Or because I know that what happens with all municipalities as they adopt their budget, there's all this little caveat. Depending on what the county levy is, well, that's been passed. Depending on what the school board levy is, and it's still outstanding, your taxes will increase by X. And it varies for the municipality. What's what's your deadline for all of that?
I mean, Mallory can correct me, but we don't set that levy. The ministry would. That comes from them. So, in terms of a deadline, I don't know how that structure works within their organization, but
I just know the trustees are presented the budget late May, early June, and then they vote on it at the end of June. The budget. Jane is correct. I would say financially, we are in the best shape we've been in a few years. So it's a good place to be. But having said that, I know we are hearing at the ministry level some cautiousness that we have to approach the budgeting with, because across the province, I would say, and Jane, I don't know, more than half of the boards provincially are struggling with their budgets and they are in deficit. There are certain areas of the budget that are always seem to be notoriously over. For example, supporting students with special education needs seems to be an area provincially where people are spending more than they are given assigned by the ministry. Transportation is another area. So we always here in Bluewater have approached our budget cautiously, and I think it's been really beneficial to us with the outcomes that we're seeing. And our budget is really enrollment driven, and thankfully our enrollment is increasing year over year, and it's intended to do so next year as well.
So the
I
provincial.
think this year, sorry, I was just going to say, I think this year may be an even more approach with caution as we watch the politics generally around the country and the province. When you think of supply costs for builds, or there's a lot of variables that we won't know yet that we'll have to be aware of as we're moving forward. We feel very thankful to be starting this process in the position that we're in. As Laurie alluded to, there's many boards in our province that are trying to find very significant savings going into a budget year that they too will have to approach cautiously. So Bluewater is certainly starting this process in a very good spot.
One of the other issues that has been raised, particularly, I'm going to say use Toronto as probably the most, because the number is so big, the infrastructure deficit. That the school board has got massive repairs. Schools are in some cases in awful shape. But that's not true entirely in Bluewater, is it?
No.
And I will go back to just the comment I made earlier. We spent over 20 million this past summer on things in our school in terms to bring the infrastructure up. Our schools are in really good shape. Mm-hmm. And during the accommodation review, trustees made some tough decisions, which has helped that, because now we are able to direct our funds towards the existing buildings. And so they did some work that some of the other boards weren't able to get to during accommodation review time. And now there's a moratorium, and we no longer in the province can close schools. So there are boards like in the GT area. I know down in the Lambton Kent board area, for example, they are desperately wanting to close some schools because it's costing them money to keep them open. Some don't even have students in them, but they're not allowed to do so. Yeah,
it's a variable situation across the province, but here in Bluewater, it sounds like we're in good shape.
We sure are.
Good. Well, I look at the old West Hill School, now OSDSS, and it's 50 years old, which, well, 50 years for a building like that is, you should be reaching into. It's not. It's a lot of money has been put into the structure and rehabilitation has happened. And
Mhm.
hey, maybe my grandchildren will go. I don't know. Who knows? Who knows? There was work that has been done.
Mhm.
Now, let's move on to something else. One of the things that is school teaching, well, actually, I'm going to approach it another way. Let me ask you, um, this is the time of year when teachers begin to look for jobs. Are you hiring?
Um, we are always looking for employees and across our employee group. So our human resources department does a great job in their recruitment efforts. They're going out to different universities to recruit teachers, for example, to different job fairs. They participated in other kinds of job fairs that are being offered, where we would try to attract people, not in the teaching field, but potentially in the custodial field or office professional field. So we're always looking. Because we're mid-year, other than second semester starting in secondary, we're pretty settled with our teaching staff. But a lot of the hiring and things like that will occur closer to the end of the year and into the summer for next year. But I would say that we are actually the second largest employer in Grey and Bruce County. So we're always looking for folks to join our team.
Right. The reason I'm coming at this is because I noticed you've got a new teacher induction program, and having looked at some of the outlines of it, it sounds like it's kind of like an extended orientation program and mentoring program.
It is, and it's been so well received. So it's exactly that, really. And it's for our brand new teachers and those even who are considered occasional, who are doing a long-term occasional contract. So they're not permanent yet, but we also offer them that opportunity. And so there are two ways that we support them because, even though you've gone to teachers college, it's still learning when you come into a brand new school and you're facing your own classroom, whatever that looks like for you. So we offer a mentor-mentee. And so it's job-alike mentorship where we pair them with somebody who's been doing the job and they can support them with any questions or feedback on their teaching processes, classroom management, and those kinds of aspects. So that's one. We also bring them into the board office and we offer professional learning for them with our system teachers. And that can be a variety of topics and sessions that we would offer them. And the feedback has been phenomenal. We look at a wide range of things like we support numeracy and literacy teaching or diversity instruction, universal design to make sure we're supporting all of our learners, how to help students thrive in the classroom. So these sessions have been really well received, and knowing they have a mentor that they can turn to as well when need be is a very supportive structure for them.
One of the things I did notice, which I find actually very progressive, is that there is support for teachers' mental health.
Yes.
And I think that is a very, very progressive way of looking at it, because we forget that sometimes teachers are dealing with the kids who throw rocks at school. I mean, it's out of the air, but the kids who might have significant challenges in their life otherwise, and it comes out at school. How can a teacher support a child who has got some very significant issues? So, yeah, it's a very, very sounds like a very progressive kind of program.
I just wanted to also give Bluewater credit because we also reach out to our long-term occasional teachers, which I know isn't the way in all boards. For some, they have to wait till they're hired on as a contract. But the nice part about reaching out to our long-term occasional is that where many of our teachers start, and they require the support at that stage, to offer it after they've been teaching for a year and a half or two. They may not need it as much as they did when they were first starting out as occasional teachers. So I'm really proud that we're able to do that.
Good. The other thing that I noticed is that and this comes out of some of the headlines recently, where school privacy or Board of Education privacy has been cracked by hackers. And there's been, I don't know whether that affects Bluewater, but certainly I believe York Region, TDSB, were all affected by this hack, as well as other boards across Canada. And did that hack affect the Bluewater board?
The most recent one did not, David. That was a hack through their student information systems, and it was boards that used a company called Power School. We use Aspen, so we were not one of the impacted boards, thankfully, because it's so disruptive. These hackers, they're professionals. They're doing this. They're being successful, as I understand it, in having ransomware paid. It's quite a lucrative business, as I understand it. Our technology department, our ICT department, as the acronym, has been so vigilant in this area, and they have increased it's a security assessment score through our insurer, and it's the Ontario School Board Insurance Exchange. We have moved from a 44% to an 88% score this year because of things we've implemented in terms of cybersecurity. Because I know it's from directors I've talked to across the province who have undergone these hacks. It's been so disruptive to families, and the information that they're getting access is back like many years, people's information. So it's very, very worrisome, and we are doing our best to prevent something like this happening, but they are very strategic, these hackers. So I do wonder if, it's going to be more widespread throughout other organizations other than just education in the years to come.
Oh, to be sure.
Yes.
I'm sure municipal governments, big corporations, small businesses can be easily hacked. But I think it's interesting to see but the flip side of this, and I noticed this in some of the documentation, was that you, in relating to students, you are discussing or raising with students cyber awareness, not just to be aware of hackers, but also to be, dare I say, good citizens digitally.
Oh, yes. In fact, even when we talked about in the multi-year strategic plan development, we talked about that, developing good digital citizens. It is important, and we do have different procedures to guide that as well. We're doing the same with staff. We're sending out like monthly kind of emails around things to look for, because people, they're tricky. Like sometimes an email will come in here, just click on this link and it'll get you to whatever it might be. If you need support with computer issue, click this link, but it's nothing to do with our board. And then here you are, it's a phishing thing that they do. So we are doing our best to develop our students with an awareness and understanding things they need to look for, and how they should interact on a social network or social platforms, as well as our staff, and telling them things they need to be aware of.
Yes,
it really is a conversation at any of the conferences trustees have attended, school board staff have attended. It's this has become quite a topic for people to be aware of, to know best practices, and the same with the artificial intelligence. It's trying to educate ourselves, to be smart as we move forward, use things to the best of our ability. It's an ever-changing world, so it's quite the process to be on top of it. What I might have learned in terms of the risk of one phishing, to be safe, might be changed again by now, and it's a different thing that you would need to be looking for. So it's an evolving, ever-changing. But I'm really glad that we're being as vigilant and cautious as we are at Bluewater.
Good. Well, this was kind of is a segue into I guess it was last summer the province bans smartphones in schools. How's that working out?
Mhm.
I would say exceptionally well. It'll be interesting to see if it supports student achievement in the data that we receive. But I believe it was necessary. Like, we needed something to put our teeth in to ensure that our students weren't pulling their phones out all the time. I think the other thing that maybe has made a difference from our school network systems, boards were directed as well to shut down access to certain sites while students are in school. So Instagram or Facebook, Snapchat, so we shut those down. Now, students who come with their own data and they have their phones at lunch, they can still access that, but they can't get it through our school system. So I feel it was a good move, and I'm not hearing any complaints either way about that. And I thought that I might, but I have not.
That's remarkable because, even as an adult, I'm very dependent upon my smartphone. As my producer knows, I got on at the wrong time this morning. My calendar said you have a show at the Bluewater District School Board.
Oh.
Oops, my bad. But the thing is that the students are saying, okay, we can live with this. This is working, or is it working? Is the data set telling you that it's working?
And I think that's we have to see. We yet haven't really had an opportunity to check if that makes a difference, but I would say for sure the attention in the classroom has got to be more focused now that they're not grabbing their phones all the time. They are such a habit. I find it for myself. They're such a habit. If they're there, I constantly pick it up and look. I mean, I do a lot of work related things on it, but then you start ending up going down a bit of a rabbit hole at times on a weekend. And I think, oh my goodness, I can't be spending all my time doing this. I have to get outside.
I spent 30 minutes on Facebook. Oh my goodness, I got better things to do here.
Exactly.
Or other things to do here. But it's interesting. I look forward to that data when it comes back, because I think it's a very interesting social experiment. Mark Zuckerberg may not be too happy, but and ByteDance may not be too happy, but yeah, so what? Anyway, let's move on to some of the good things that have happened. I see that Bluewater District School Board has received the Association of Communicators in Education Bravo Award for your digital course calendar. What's that all about?
Well, we were very proud to receive that, and it's a national award for communication initiatives, and boards can submit to that. So we, under the leadership of Hilary Wepler, one of our teachers, she had created a digital course calendar for a secondary school. So as opposed to those hard copies coming home all the time, Hilary created that digitally, and we did a story on it. And so it actually won, it's a coup de coeur category of the Bravo Awards. So Jamie Pettit, of course, was instrumental in that. So Hilary and Jamie deserve a lot of credit on this. And we were very pleased to have received that. So there was a conference that we weren't able to attend. It was out of the province, but we thought that it was important to honor it at our board meeting. So that's what that was all about. Very prestigious award.
Excellent. And actually, I think, what school is Hilary at?
She's now at the system level.
Okay.
Yes.
Was she at Meaford?
I don't want to say for sure what school she was at, but
I've heard her name before. That's the only thing I was going to say. I think I've heard her name before. And yes, very innovative teacher.
Yes.
Yeah, that's fabulous. That's fabulous. But you've got all kinds of things happening. You've got the Black Student Forum coming back. And
well, we did have it. And in fact, the trustees received a presentation on Tuesday evening about that. Our diversity is just increasing wonderfully across our board. So much so that we had an opportunity to offer this down at Grey Highlands Secondary School, and we had over 120 people attending. So many students from across our district came, and it was created to celebrate Black culture and provide students with meaningful opportunities to connect with each other and with some of the facilitators and guest speakers. And so we are supported a lot down in the Dundalk area by I'm just thinking the pronunciation. I'll go JCI, so Jiu-Jitsu's Community Initiatives. So Joan Johns is instrumental in that, and she has been such a support for our schools. And so we were able to do that, and we had many, many guest speakers come, and the students again are asking, please give us more opportunities. We want to do this again. I think it's just a matter of feeling support and that the board's listening. The students had an opportunity to talk about things they wanted to see in school. And so that data is being gathered and acted upon and shared with our principals as well. So it was a great day. We have our Human Rights and Equity Advisor, Avian Campbell, and he was very dedicated to the initiative as well.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like the students had an opportunity to connect with some of our community leaders also. So hopefully those connections are ongoing for them and help them know what resources and another connection for them in the community.
Mm-hmm.
And perhaps the biggest gain is the students know they're not alone. Because I do know, actually, I know the parent of some Black students, parents of Black students in the board, and their kids are now graduated and well on their way in their careers. But they said that was one of the biggest issues for them in the Bluewater board, is that the kids felt alone, or there weren't peers to support them. And that's it didn't do well for them. It didn't serve the students well or the parents. So to have those connections is a strong place, a source of empowerment and engagement.
Student voice is so important to us, David, and we are having more and more student forums. So aligned with what you just said, we also offered our very first multilingual language learner symposium. So that is, again, for our students who come with English as their second language. And so it had a similar format to the Black Student Forum, except this one was held at the board office, but it's the same idea. They see themselves represented in our schools by those that come, and they go, oh my goodness, so I'm not alone here. And I was able to attend part of that symposium, and it was just beautiful to see. They're exchanging phone numbers, they're talking at their tables, and we try to mix them up during the day, and it was really successful.
I hate to end this, but I'm getting voices in my ear, and that's a reason for us to come back. All right? Lori Wilder,
Sure is.
Jane Thomson, Bluewater District School Board, thank you both so much for the conversation. And we ran out of time, but we'll be back. Friends, I'm David Shearman. We'll talk again.
Connect with us by visiting our website or email us at comments@rogerstv.com.
RTV Sports Wrap every Wednesday as myself, Spencer Byers, and our esteemed panel talk about everything you need to know going on in football, basketball, baseball, hockey, and soccer as we joust about what's going on in sports, keeping you up to date on Rogers TV.
Are you a passionate content creator ready to expand your audience reach? Do you have unique stories, captivating hobbies, or special interests that deserve a spotlight? Rogers TV is here to amplify your voice within the